I wish our podcasters now embodied this, but he said, you don't want to start with a hypothesis because the hypothesis will change the way that you perceive the facts. I think the same thing is true of screenwriting. The hypothesis, the movie has to be about this, may change your perception of what you're actually writing and what the story is actually trying to give you.
Welcome to the Scriptcake podcast. I am your host, Lavender Gill, and this week I am excited to talk to an award-winning screenwriter, the founder of the Jacob Krueger Studio, and host of the popular Write Your Screenplay podcast, Jacob Krueger. He has worked with thousands of writers, from Academy and Tony Award winners to novice writers just starting out. Jake is a playwright, a producer, a director, and an incredible artist. You can tell by the painting right behind him right now. His Emmy Award winning movie, The Matthew Shepard Story, won the Writers Guild of America Paul Selvin Award, and he also received a Gemini nomination for Best Screenplay. He's also collaborated on original film musicals with Tony Award winning composers and Academy Award winning composers. Welcome to the Scriptcake podcast, Jake.
Thank you so much, Lavender. I'm so excited to finally be here.
Yeah, we've been working on this for a minute and finally found a space in the schedules to link up. So we're really excited to have you here. One of the things I always love to find out is kind of an origin story. How did you get from where you were growing up into the film industry?
Well, I grew up in New Jersey, so I was exposed to radioactivity and no, but it almost is that wild of a story. So I actually didn't know that I was going to be an artist in any way. My dream as a kid was to be a lawyer.
Wow.
To the extent, Lavender, I literally, my poor mom, but I was begging her. I wanted wood paneling on my walls so that it would look more like a law office, right? Like I was that kid.
Wow.
And my sister was the artsy kid. I went to Dartmouth because they had an incredible government program. And then I started taking government classes. So I was 19-year-old kid, 18-year-old kid, and I suddenly didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. And I was really lucky. I fell in love with a costume designer, and she broke my world open. And she was really the person who taught me that I could be an artist, that taught me how to see like an artist. And then I had some really wonderful mentors at Dartmouth and beyond Dartmouth who helped cultivate that in me. And so we were heading into our senior year, and of course we were in college, so we thought we were going to be together forever. And I wanted to go to New York to direct theater, and she wanted to go to LA to costume design TV. And so we agreed that I would take an internship in LA, and that if I hated it, she would come to New York with me. And if I liked it, we would go to LA so we could have this thing called money, which apparently you can make in film and not in theater. And so I got this internship, and I accidentally sold a script as an intern. And
Wait. Don't gloss over that. How does that happen?
I'm working at this production company, and at the time they were called Atlantis Films. They went on to become Alliance Atlantis, a giant studio. But at the time they were a tiny production company that was really good at making money, right? Enough that they ate the big guy. And there was one particular producer there who I just thought was really intelligent. I could hear him talking on the phone, and I just thought he was really smart. And I was like, I want to learn from this guy. And so I popped my head into his office, and I was like, hey, is there anything that I can help you with? And he was like, go away. But I kept doing it. And so eventually it kind of became a joke between the two of us that I was going to ask what I could do for him, and he was going to tell me to fuck off. And that was kind of the game. And it became like a routine every morning. And finally, I got enough confidence that I was like, hey, man, I'm free. I'm literally free. There must be something that you can do with free. And he kind of grumbled at me and was like, fine, you want to organize my inbox? And I was like, yes, sir. Yes, I do. And that job of organizing his inbox was really what launched my career, right? And it's one of the things I always talk about with my students is like whatever your job is, right? Like do it with the greatest passion that you possibly can.
Yep.
Right? Because first off, it's just more fun to work hard actually than it is to be like, oh, can you believe they made me organize an inbox? Right? It's actually more fun to take pride in your work and work hard. But also you never know what's going to open the door or where you're going to learn the thing you need to learn. So I'm going through his inbox and we got to this story that he had optioned and he's like all angry. He's like, I can't sell the fucking thing. And I don't have the money to hire a writer and I need a treatment. And I know I can sell it, but I can't sell it. And I was like, you need a treatment? I'll write you a treatment. He's like, you can write a treatment? I was like, I didn't even know what a treatment was, but I was like, absolutely. Yes, I can.
Yes. I've gotten a few jobs with that exact same attitude. Yes.
And so I wrote the treatment and the treatment sold to CBS.
Wow.
My payment, by the way, Lavender, was a Walkman with like a cassette tape. But I was in college. I was like, I can't believe it. I sold the script. I got a cassette tape. I got a Walkman. Like I'm delighted.
Yeah,
I did not know what Writers Guild minimum was, obviously, right? I was delighted. And when I graduated, I got to be an in-house writer. And so my job was literally like, my boss would knock on my door and he'd be like, I want to make a movie about this. And I'd be like, okay, cool. And I would figure out the story and I'd write a treatment. And then we would sell the treatment. And then they would bring in a professional writer to mess it up. And this is actually how I learned to be a teacher. Because they would then end up back in my office. And I shouldn't say they all messed it up. Like I also got to work with brilliant, gifted, talented people, hardworking people who did incredible work and where like I barely got to be involved after that. But I was the guy, it was much cheaper to send them to my office and let me fix it than it was to fire them and hire another writer. And so if the project got messed up, then they ended up in my office, right? And my job was to fix it. And I'm a 22-year-old kid, right? And sometimes you're in a room with an Emmy Award winner, an Academy Award winner, or just like a twice your age, highly successful artist.
Yeah.
Right? And they're about to get fired and they're stuck. Right. But they're also looking at you like, how are you going to help me? Right. And there's anger. Right. And so this is how I learned to teach, because you very quickly learn that if you tell that writer, this is what to do, this is how you fix it, this is what you should do, that you're going to lose them. Right. They're not only are they not going to take the note, even if they do take the note, they're going to half-ass it. Right? Because they're going to resent the note because it didn't come out of them.
Right.
And often the reason that they were in my office, right? Like we did a lot of TV, and like now TV is, God, you're so lucky if you work in TV, right? But in those days, like TV was kind of where you went to die. And so you had these writers that used to be $1 million script writer, and now they're $150,000 script writer, right? Which means they've got to write 7 or 8 movies to make the money that they used to make off of one.
Yeah.
Right. And so they're doing it for the money and they're taking it and they're churning it out. Right. And they feel like they have no connection to the project. But they need the cash. And what I learned was like, you just can't write 105 pages, 120 pages. You just can't write that many pages without accidentally leaving something of yourself in it.
Agreed.
And what I used to call them me droppings, right? Like those little droppings of you, right? Those little me droppings. And what I learned was, don't actually tell them what to do at all. You don't have to, What you actually have to do is you have to show them those little me droppings, right? Those little pieces where their voice came through, where their passion came through, where something that they connected to came through. And if you could show them that, they would suddenly see the beauty in this script that before was like the sellout script for them,
Mm.
right? And they would also understand that I wasn't trying to impose my ideas on them.
Mm-hmm.
I was trying to help them execute their ideas, right? And once you learn to do that, right, that's when you actually get the best work out of writers,
Yeah.
right? Because now you've got them connected and passionate and excited again.
Yeah. Let me ask you a quick question. Can you give me an example of a me dropping that, so people can get a clear understanding of what you mean by that?
Sure. 90% of scripts you read are cliche, right? If you're a cover
Fair.
reader listening to this podcast, right?
Very
This is
fair.
what it's like they read the same script again and again and again, the same formula,
Yep.
right?
Fair.
Um, and so, and when writers are trying to bang out scripts quickly, right? Professional writers, they fall back on cliches, right? Structures they've done before, right? Influences from movies that they've seen before, right? Because they got to get it done quick because they got to get the check so they can get out, right?
Yeah.
But we all have this thing called voice, right? And so you only need the tiniest bit of voice to build off of, right? So
Mm-hmm.
let's say we have a scene between you and me, right? And I go, "Hey, Lavinder, how's it going?" Right? And you go, "Good, good, yeah." And I go, "Hey, what you been up to?" Right? And it's a totally reasonable scene, but it's boring,
Mm-hmm.
right? And we're living in a world of cliche, right? But then, like, just in the process of writing it, I find some weird line that just kind of popped in there, right? So before we started this podcast, we have a mutual friend named Bill True,
Mm-hmm. We do.
right? Um, and we have a running joke about Bill. Right? In fact, we
Yes.
agreed in some way that we need to mess with Bill during this podcast,
Very much
right?
so. Agreed.
Yes.
Yes.
And so, Bill, this one's for you, right? So, I find that one line about Bill True in what's a normal greeting.
Mm-hmm.
That's a me dropping,
Mm-hmm.
right? So, that's my way into the character of Lavinder, right? I know that Lavinder is playful, right? It's my way into the relationship
Mm-hmm.
between these three writers,
I
right?
like the connection of Bill True and the word dropping for some reason.
Yeah.
There's something there that
From
I
this
think.
point forward, we're going to call them Bill True droppings. So I understand that there's a connection between these three writers, and I understand that they're playful with each other, but also
Mhm,
that there's a little status game happening,
mhm,
right? Just
mhm.
just off of that one little dropping where the character went like, I'm not doing something cliche, I'm doing something weird. I'm not
Yeah.
doing something that's actually related to where the scene is supposed to go
Mhm,
or where the podcast is supposed to go or what the plan was. I'm just doing something weird,
mhm. I
right?
love it. I
And,
love it. Great example.
and it was really interesting, Lavinder, especially when you're working with new writers, right? New writers, they tend to edit those out,
Yes.
right? Because your me droppings, or your Bill True droppings, your true
Your
droppings,
true droppings.
TM.
I love
Yeah,
that. True droppings. That's
true
so,
droppings. It's actually kind of perfect.
it
Thank you,
is.
Bill True.
Yeah. True droppings.
Yeah. So your true droppings,
Mhm,
right? You think that they're shit,
mhm,
right? Because they don't look like the things that other people are writing,
mhm.
right? And because they make you feel exposed, right? Because that's actually your voice there,
Yeah.
right? And it makes you wonder, like, do I fit in? Are people going to judge me? Are people going to think I'm weird, right? When you work with in fact, in my Write Your Screenplay class, we always do this exercise called the bad screenplay exercise, where I give students the challenge of writing the worst scene ever, right? And there's a little bit more to it. I kind of skew it in a way that pretty much guarantees success.
Mhm,
But they try to write their worst scene ever. And then I have the person who wrote the very worst scene raise their hand.
mhm.
And somebody is like so ashamed, right? Oh my God, so terrible. And then I go, okay, now you have to share it. and you watch them go white, right? And they're so like, oh God, no, no, no. And they share it, and it is invariably brilliant,
Hmm.
invariably, right? But it made them feel uncomfortable because there's so much of them in there,
Yeah.
right? Or maybe not the them that they, we all have these masks, right? And it's not the mask that they're comfortable wearing. Maybe it's a shadow or a repressed part of themselves or a part
Yeah.
that they only let out in their best relationships or at their worst moments or whatever. But our job is actually we gotta take the mask off, right? And for ourselves and for our characters. So you find those Bill True droppings,
Hmm.
right?
How
And
about
then
how about truth droppings?
truth droppings. I don't know. I feel like it doesn't fully honor Bill. Uh,
Okay, so true droppings we'll stick with.
so we're gonna take our true droppings.
Right.
And here's the amazing thing: they always end up connecting,
Hmm.
right? And so then they'll end up leading you to theme,
Yeah.
right? And so what my process working with those writers was, and it's the same process. I do it a little differently with beginners, but it's the same process I use with my students. Is okay. This felt true,
Mm.
and this felt true, and this felt true, this felt true, and this felt true. And you watch their eyes kind of widen as they realize, oh, it actually is true. Oh, it actually is interesting.
Hmm.
And then you start to connect it for them. And so if all this is true, like what else does it mean?
Yeah.
Right. And now you start to understand what the script is really about. Right. And it doesn't matter how much of a sellout they think, they think they're writing the Hungry, Hungry Hippos movie. Right. Which is I'm destined to invent this movie because I always give it as my example of like, God forbid someone hires me to write the Hungry, Hungry Hippos movie. But then you end up realizing, no, it's about my own insatiability.
Hmm.
Right.
Hmm.
And, uh, you know, and and based on all these beautiful moments, or you realize it's about something I never expected it would be, right?
Hmm.
It's about competition, or it's about my yearning to be a child, or
Yeah.
whatever that is.
I had a similar, I don't know if it's a similar breakthrough. I had a breakthrough along the same lines of this years ago. I got hired to write a kids' horsey movie
Hmm.
by an independent producer that used to put the DVDs in the Walmart $5 bins in the
Yeah.
hallways, hallways. Do you remember those?
Yeah.
And they came to me with, there's three kids. There's a horse at a ranch. We'd like it to stay at the ranch mostly. The horse runs away. The kids go get the horse. It'd be nice if there was a dog. That was all the data that they gave me to write a screenplay with
Yeah.
because, for them, they know a DVD in the $5 bin with a horse on it and a reasonably known actor is going to sell like crazy.
Yeah.
Okay. And so I was sitting there, well, there's nothing here to write. There's no story. At that point, I'd never been to a horse ranch, so I didn't
Yeah.
know the first thing about that. And so I just sat down and had a conversation with myself, like, what is going on with me? What is my truth right now? What am I dealing with? And it was just a few years after my mother had passed.
Mm.
And so I wrote a story about me dealing with my mother passing
Yeah.
that is under the guise of a kids' horsey movie.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Its theme is so powerful. It brings us back to Bill True. All
Yeah.
you need is one true thing.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
This is true like literally anytime you sit down to write.
Hmm.
And it can be as big as like, oh my God, I'm mourning the loss of my mother,
Hmm.
right? Or it can be as small as like, look around your desk and okay, this is a weird thing that I just noticed. This is from like 2 years ago, but this is a hypnosis playing card deck,
Hmm.
right? That's
Hmm.
been sitting on my desk because I'm fascinated by hypnosis. Oh, that's freaking weird, right? It's just one true thing, right? But now I can write a scene from there,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
And so finding like whatever that one true thing is, whether it's like really big or really small,
Hmm.
right? It just allows you to focus your creativity in some place that's going to be instantly connected.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know what, if I'm gonna write a kids' horse movie, I got three scenes. They show up, the kids meet, the horse runs away, they go get it.
Yeah.
But if I'm writing about my mom's passing,
Yeah.
I have 30, 40 years of scenes.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And
Totally.
uh and the same thing with the hypnosis. You just delve into that and it's a you're tapping into an unlimited resource.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, the young writers always hear this term and they often misapply it, right? Like write what you know,
Hmm.
right? And that, people think that means, oh, well, you grew up in New Jersey and you dreamed of being a lawyer, so write that,
Hmm.
right? But like, J.R.R. Tolkien never met an orc, right? And never held a ring of power that made him disappear, right? But I would suggest like he certainly knew something about addiction,
Hmm.
right? Like, and the addiction to war, but also the addiction to this ring that makes
To the
you
precious,
literally
yeah.
disappear. Yeah, to the precious, right?
Hmm.
And so like, um, what's really cool to me about theme, it's always like a yellow brick road journey for me. Like, you think you know what you're writing about, and then you realize, no, it's not about that.
Hmm.
And then you realize, holy crap, it is about that, but just not
Hmm.
in the way that I thought.
No, I had the student who was struggling with her story, and it's about this girl who wants to write a book. And I'm like, okay, why does she want to write a book? And she says, just to prove that she can. And I'm like, to prove to who? And she goes, I don't know. I'm like, well, then why does she want to write a book? And we just kind of kept going through the circle as we were
Yeah.
trying to figure it out. And eventually, to prove to her dad. Well, why does she have to prove it to her dad? Well, she doesn't have to prove it to her dad. Well, then why does she want to prove it to her dad? And, 10 minutes of just kind of asking the same questions over and over and over. And I was trying to get her to understand what she's tapping into. And then she just paused and then she just, in a whisper, said, so her dad will be proud of her.
Yeah.
And I was like, you just said something that every person on the planet wants and
Yeah.
has experienced and is universal. That's your story.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I love that you did that. I mean, it's a mark of a great teacher, right?
Very kind.
Like, with the, and I think this is important for anyone listening, right? That just because a person's a great writer doesn't mean they're a great teacher, right?
Agreed.
And that just because someone's teaching and you're spending a lot of money on them doesn't mean they're a great teacher,
Hmm.
right? And in general, if the person's doing most of the talking and they're telling you what to do, they're probably damaging your script, right?
Fair.
Um, but if the person is doing what Lavinder just did and just asking you questions, right, that push you to figure out your own answers and push you to get connected or deep, right? That's when you know you have the right mentor and hold off to that mentor for the rest of your life, right? Like that's the person who's going to really take you on a journey, right? And so, and especially in this field, right? Because
Hmm.
it's such a challenging field. So, and then once you actually break in, you make so much money, right? And so like there's a like if you want to go study playwriting, you know, well, every playwright teaches nearly, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's
Because
true.
the money is so small. But
Hmm.
in screenwriting, the vast majority of working screenwriters, unless you have a calling, right? They're they're writing, they're not teaching, right? And so the need for that kind of gets filled up by a lot of people who often have never sold a script, right? Like even some of like the most famous gurus in this industry have like either never written one or never sold one, right? They're
Yeah.
brilliant PhDs, right? So like you can literally know from the very first meeting with somebody, right? Like, are they asking you questions or are they telling you what to do? Are they
Hmm.
helping you figure out the theme and building on that? Or are they telling you what the theme should be? And then you know if you're actually getting the guidance you need or not.
So back on track, you're 22. You're mentoring professional screenwriters twice your age with huge credits.
Yeah.
And how does your career evolve from there?
So a lot of these projects I was really serving the role of a consultant or producer, right? And then some of these projects I was actually co-writing, right?
Oh, nice.
And it was really cool when they started to get made, and then it was really uncool when my name wasn't on them.
Mm.
And I, like the first 4 years of it, it was great, but then you start to see people win awards, and you're like, it's not, I didn't write it, but I definitely co-wrote it, right?
Yeah,
And I
absolutely.
definitely wrote the story, and I definitely like created it, and I couldn't take it anymore. And my relationship with my mentor there, it was a little bit like whiplash.
Mm,
And I think it's
mhm,
probably one of the reasons I got into mentorship, right? Is like I so wanted to give people what I needed at that time that I didn't get. And he taught me most of what I know about screenwriting. Like I learned so much from him. But he also did so much damage,
mm,
right? He did
mm.
so much damage. And uh, so I went to him and I said, like, I need a movie that I can put my name on. And he said, or what? And I said, or I'm going to quit.
Mhm.
And he said, but I could never get you approved. And I said, yeah, I know, because nobody except you knows that I'm co-writing these movies,
Yeah.
right? You can't get me approved because my name's not on. And he said, you would have to partner with somebody. And I said, yes, I know exactly who I wanted to partner with. I wanted to partner with John Wyrick. He was somebody that I had been fortunate enough to work on a movie with called Crossed Over that got made with Diane Keaton.
Mhm.
Um, the final product is not as strong as the script, but oh my God, that script was so beautiful. And uh, I knew that John and I had a great relationship, and I knew he was a total class act of a human being. And I knew that we had very complementary strengths, right? And this is something I also, whenever you're writing with a partner, right, it's like a marriage,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
And so like you don't want someone who's good at the same thing you're good at. You want somebody who is great at or loves doing the things that you're not as strong at, and where you're equally bringing something that they can't do as well, right? You want that kind of relationship, and um you want a person you can rely on, like they were your partner, right? You need to trust them to that extent, because your career and theirs are going to ride a similar trajectory.
Mhm.
And so John was a class act and a gifted writer, and I knew that I could bring a lot to him and he could bring a lot to me. And uh, so we partnered on that project, and there's much more drama. I mean, at one point my mentor offered to double my salary if I would give up on being a screenwriter. um and having to say no to that, right? That's probably the most important choice I ever made in my life, right? Was like, no, there
Yeah, I
wasn't.
find when there's these big decisions that you have to make in life, God will come down and throw some shiny stuff in front of you to
Yeah,
distract you
yeah,
with.
yeah. No, it was like a hero's journey moment, right? Like it was so, um, and I was young and I was scared, but I was like, I knew that that wasn't my dream,
Mhm.
and I had such I have such wonderful parents, and so few of my students get the gift that I have from them, which is like I knew that they supported me no matter what, and that they wanted me to have my dream, right? And that gave me courage, right? Like I didn't have financial support, but I knew I was going to be loved. No one was going to tell me, what have you done? Like that I was going to have the emotional support I needed. And so I was like, I know that if I take this deal and double my salary and lose my art, that I am I am not going to feel like myself,
Mhm.
right? And I needed to be an artist, and so I it was so crazy, right? I thought I wanted to be a lawyer, but I was like, I knew that this was my path, and it came with costs,
Mhm.
right? Because from that point forward, he was no longer my mentor; he was my enemy,
Mhm.
right? Not from me, but from him,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
He felt like I had defied him.
Mm-hmm.
And but I was fortunate the movie got made. Roger Spottiswoode is an unbelievable director, and he shepherded that project through a lot of craziness. And uh, you know, and the movie got made, and it had success. You know, it launched my career, and I got to do that.
Mm.
Uh, Crazy experience to win a bunch of awards on like your first movie that your name's been on,
That's
right?
amazing. Amazing.
Um, that also taught me a lot, Lavinder, about how to teach for writer's block because a really weird thing happened for me, which was I had never been blocked in my life.
Mm-hmm.
And suddenly I won all these awards and I got blocked um, because I was no longer doing the process that had made me a great writer. I was trying to be the guy who was worthy of those awards, right?
Mm.
I was trying to prove to myself and to anyone who read my scripts that that I was deserving and good enough, right?
Yeah.
And that I was an award-winning screenwriter, right? I wasn't just Jake anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And um, and so that was a very rough period for me. Um, but as a teacher, it was formative because I got to learn like what causes it, and then I got to find my way out of it.
Mm.
And like at this point, I say to people like, if you're blocked, like I can end that in one session. Like if you have writer's block, you can literally go to my first day of write your screenplay and leave not blocked anymore, right?
Mm-hmm.
But to find that took me the most painful year of my life.
I use a playlist every time I'm about to write.
Yeah,
I put together this playlist of songs that have emotional resonance for me within the realm of the story that I'm telling.
yeah,
And they may be completely different. This might be about the father-son relationship. This might be about the guy and his love interest relationship. This might be
yeah,
that. But the songs pull me into it, and I'm already feeling it before I start writing it. And then I'm more, it speeds up that process. So I don't really
yeah.
have a ton of writer's block myself now as I have in the past.
Do you ride the sound or do you ride the feeling?
The feeling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, there are four learning modalities, right? There's visual learning, right?
Mm-hmm.
People who learn by seeing.
Yep.
There is kinesthetic learning. You're a kinesthetic learner, right?
Mm-hmm.
People who learn by feeling.
Yep.
There are auditory learners, right? Where people who learn by hearing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so when somebody listens to music, sometimes that means they're an auditory learner,
Oh,
right? But if you had said, no, there's something about the rhythm and then it just clicks in, right? Like if you're using auditory language, then that says, oh, Lavender learns auditorially. If you're a kinesthetic learner, you're using the music to feel the emotion,
yeah.
and then the feeling
Yeah.
carries you through the
That's it.
writing.
If you read anything I've ever written about screenwriting or any of my videos, it's all about the emotion for
Yeah,
me.
yeah.
That's the primary thing. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's really interesting, our educational system. So there's a fourth modality that I didn't bring up, which is called digital learning,
Mm-hmm.
right? Which is like 0.01% of learners, right? It's like the smallest. We all can do all of these things, right?
Right.
We can all hear, feel, see, right? Digital learners learn. It's almost like math, right? Like this plus this equals that, right? They learn by
Mm-hmm.
planning. Um, and and so it's really interesting about that. Like I've at this point taught tens of thousands of students,
Mm-hmm.
right? I've had one digital learner in my entire career,
Hmm.
right? And she was brilliant, but I had to completely turn my teaching upside down for her, right? Because she learned so differently.
Yeah.
But if you look at our educational system is like 98% digital learning, right? They're actually teaching you as if this is how people learn,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And auditory learners in particular really suffer because they often look like they're not paying attention because they don't take notes, right?
Yeah.
Because they hear it,
Yeah.
right? And so it's really interesting. Part of being a teacher of screenwriting is that you have to undo a lot of damage that got done again
Mm-hmm.
elementary school,
Yeah.
right? Because you have these teachers who are authority figures who are telling you like, this is how you do things, right? And is the same thing is true, screenwriting books, my God, right? Like the book's this thick and it's filled with this many rules and it's all digital learning,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And that's not actually where this stuff comes from, right? That's where you end up, but like that's not the path that gets you there, right? And so it's really, often overeducated screenwriters, right? If they haven't been educated by the right people, right? They lose their voice in all this digital baloney.
Yeah. I could not agree with you more. I'm so happy that you brought it up. Years ago, and 15 years ago, when I was a college professor running a film program in Arizona, I got a grant to do an experiment on the flipped classroom. Are you familiar with the flipped
No,
classroom
I'm actually
theory?
not.
Okay. So basically, traditional learning is I talk at you, you ask questions, you take notes, I test you on that.
Yeah.
Okay. The flipped classroom is a little bit of the opposite, where you pre-record all your lessons, and the lessons are homework. So you watch the video,
Hmm.
and then you come into class and you do your homework while you're in the classroom,
Yeah.
because in traditional learning, generally when you're doing your homework, you have questions
Yes.
because you didn't catch everything, because everyone learns a different way, and you can say the same thing to 20 students and they're going to get 20 different variants of what you said from it.
Yeah.
But in the flipped classroom, individually, I'm there while they have their questions pop up, and I'm helping them answer their questions on an individual basis.
Yeah.
But all the students are getting the benefit of having that question answered.
Yeah. Oh, I love that so much. We're giving shout outs to Bill True,
That's right.
of True Droppings Incorporated. But a shout out to like one of the greatest teachers I ever had was a guy named Ronald Hillman, who was my high school, uh, he was my high school history teacher. And he was doing that flipped classroom idea before video existed as a learning style, right? Like,
Nice.
and what he did that was so brilliant. So you had vast amounts of reading for homework, but all you did for homework was reading,
Mm-hmm.
right? And you were responsible for coming into class an expert on the facts. And he had this thing, and I wish our politicians and our podcasters now like embodied this, but he said, you actually don't want to use the scientific method when you're doing history. You don't want to start with a hypothesis
Hmm.
because the hypothesis will change the way that you perceive the facts,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
So and I think the same thing is true of screenwriting, right? Like the hypothesis, the movie has to be about this, may change your perception of what you're actually writing and what the story is actually trying to give you.
Mm-hmm.
And so what he said was, you want to hold off on your hypothesis until you have consumed as many of the facts as possible
Mm-hmm.
without coming to a decision about what they mean, right? And then only when you've digested as much as possible, like we were talking about with the true droppings, right? You start to go, oh, I think this is how they connect. Maybe it means this, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so you would do all that at home, and then you would come into class, and whatever your hypothesis was, he would start attacking it. And you would have to defend yourself with facts, and you would have to adjust as he poked holes in your hypothesis,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I still to this day don't know if Ronald Hillman was a liberal, a conservative. I have no idea, because if you could argue the most progressive idea and he'd poke hole in it, you could argue the most conservative idea, he would poke holes in it. And it was such a brilliant model for learning how to think, right? And learning how to process information. And then also for me, a real inspiration as a screenwriter, because that's kind of what you do with your character, right? Is like you start with a person who has a certain belief about the world, right? And you know some things about them, but only by writing them do you actually get to really know them.
Mm-hmm.
And then whatever they believe about the world, you start to poke holes in it, right? You start to figure out, what are the obstacles to that?
Hmm.
What are the ways that that doesn't work? What are the
You're
ways
right.
that they mess that up, right? And then, by the end of the movie, hopefully, they either have a clearer or, if you're Darren Aronofsky, a more fucked up, but like they're more complicated. They have a more complicated understanding of the world,
Yeah.
right? For better or worse. And so like this is part of the reason I think that writing is therapeutic. And I think the movies are so important socially and politically, even if they're not, quote, political movies, right? Is that we're actually teaching people how to process the world,
Hmm.
right? And we're actually teaching people how to question their own assumptions or how to shift
Yeah.
their own assumptions.
Yeah. One of the things I teach is that I believe art is medicine for our souls.
Yeah, yeah, I
And
believe that too.
that's one of the jobs that we have as artists. Unfortunately, you get so many novice screenwriters going, I'm going to write a horror movie. And I'm
Yeah.
like, well, hold off on the horror movie yet. Let's figure out what you got to say.
Yes.
Then if it fits in a horror movie, we'll do that. You
Yes.
know?
Yes. Yeah. Absolutely right. And genre is so I don't want to be glib, but genre is easy,
Hmm.
right? Tone is easy. And what I mean by that, nothing is easy. Like screenwriting is hard, but I can lay horror tone over any movie
Hmm.
and make a horror movie,
Yep.
right? I can lay comedy tone over any movie and make a comedy, right? Lars and the Real Girl is Mannequin, right? With a different tone
You're right.
laid over it.
You're right.
And so, writers worry so much about tone too early,
Hmm.
right? And again, it gets in the way of, like you're saying, it gets in the way of them learning, like, oh, this is actually what I want to say, right? And this is what the movie wants to be. And don't worry, if the movie wants to be a horror movie, you will know,
Yeah.
right? Because
Yeah.
terrifying things are going to be happening. And then, the rewriting process is going, okay, now I actually know what the genre monster is that I'm feeding.
Hmm.
How do I feed it more?
Yep.
How do I feed it from the beginning, right? How do I make sure that I'm feeding it in ways no one's ever fed it before?
Hmm. Yeah. You just basically perfectly described why I call my company Scriptcake. I talk about the conceptual story as the icing of the cake
Mm-hmm.
and kind of the emotional story as the cake that you bake.
Yes.
And I'm like, you got to bake the cake first and then you ice it
Yes. Thank
because
you.
so many people come up with icing and try to put a little bit of cake in it and it doesn't
Yes.
work. It
Yes.
doesn't fit.
Yes. And it's not that it can't work. It's just so much harder.
Well, I think if you're a professional screenwriter, you can handle it both ways.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
But even when you get, a note about I want a kid's horsey movie, da, 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 da,
Yeah.
I still bake the cake about my mom and then I put a horsey
A
movie in.
hundred percent. 100%. I think of them as like they're all doors. I teach screenwriting happening in 4 different phases. And the piece you're talking about when you talk about genre, right? The icing
Hmm.
is what I call the producer draft, right?
Hmm.
And in other words, that's a phase where you want to focus the intensity of your energy on like what's already hot about this script and how do I do more of what's hot,
Hmm.
right? And it's not where you sell out, right? Because selling out, unless you're already famous, selling out's not going to get you anywhere, right? You got to have something to sell before you get to sell out. Um,
That's well said.
but it's actually about selling in. It's about going like, oh, like this is the cool thing about this script, or this is the cool thing about this scene, or about this character, right? Like, or about this company, right? We bake the cake first. That's the cool thing,
Hmm.
right? Sometimes students get scared about that though, because they go, oh shit, like I just worked on the script for 3 years. I did it all wrong, right? It's all icing,
Yeah.
right? And it's like, okay, no, it's going to be a little harder, right? If you do it Lavinder's way, it's going to be way easier, right? But that's okay. We got 3 years of icing,
Right.
right? And that's just a door, right? And we're going to go through the producer draft door and we're going to go, okay, how do we get connected? Like, what are the moments here that are already the cake,
Yeah.
right? And they might just be a couple of moments. You might have
The
three
true
moments,
droppings. Yeah. The true
the
droppings.
true droppings,
Yeah.
exactly. And then it's just in improv, they call it yes and, right? I call it mirrors and foils. The simplest way to understand it, like for a podcast, is like, if this is true, what else is true?
Mm-hmm.
My God, that Bill True. What else? He's actually the key to everything, is what I'm learning. Um, what else is true, right? And what that does is it invites your mind to figure out like what the limits of the cake might be, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what most screenwriters do the opposite, right? They go, this happens, then this happens, then this happens, right? And you're through 100 pages and your movie hasn't even started yet,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? Whereas if you go, okay, I got this one little true dropping. If this is true, what else is true?
Right.
If this is true, what would be the most extreme version of this? If this is true, what would be the most different thing that could happen? If this is true, what would be something visually that reflected it or auditorially that reflected it, right? And you can start to build the edges of what the cake might be,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then pretty soon you're going to start to realize, oh, like this has to happen over here.
Mm-hmm.
And then that would mean that, and it's almost like putting together a puzzle. At least that's what it's like for me.
I often talk about, I use a puzzle as an analogy. I talk about this thing called the hidden poster.
Mm.
So there's a poster that you design, for a film that's designed to market the movie. If we take the first Spider-Man with Tobey Maguire, it's a picture of Spider-Man doing something.
Yeah.
It's not about the emotional lesson of with great power comes great responsibility. There's nothing
Yes.
about responsibility on this poster. It's about
Yes.
cool, entertaining stuff. It's to market the movie. It's to hit your target audience. It's to get people to want to go see it. Butts in
Yeah.
seats is the goal.
Yes.
I go, but there's a second poster. There's a hidden poster. That's your emotional story. Okay. That the audience doesn't see. It's like they're putting together a puzzle without the benefit of seeing what it looks like.
Yeah.
And we break it into pieces, and each piece is one of your scenes. And as each scene goes by, the puzzle starts to fill in for the hidden poster.
Yeah.
And about 2/3 of the way through the movie, you have an aha moment when you realize what the movie's really about.
Yeah. Oh
And so
man, I love that metaphor. Can I steal that? That is such a beautiful metaphor.
I'm happy to, because I know I'm going to steal some of your stuff that we've been talking about.
Yeah, no, I think that that's like one of the most elegant ways that I've ever heard it explained. And what I really love about that, we're talking about, so what you call the poster is what I would call the producer draft,
Mm-hmm.
right? And what you call the hidden poster is what I
Yep.
would call the me draft,
Mm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Which for me is the first phase, right? But what I love about what you're saying is it describes the way that the audience journey and the character's journey and the writer's journey, right? These three journeys, they're all the same journey,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I think the mistake that most writers make is thinking like, I have to have the answer, right? So that then I can puppet my character through what it's really about,
Mm.
right? And unless you have extraordinary craft, right? That's really hard to do.
Yeah.
But if you're trying to figure out what it means, right? If you're looking for the hidden poster, if you're trying to figure out like what is it really saying? What do I actually believe, as opposed to this is what I believe? Like, what do I actually believe about that?
Mm-hmm.
Right? What am I actually trying to say? Then the audience can feel that high wire act that you're doing,
Mm-hmm.
right? And they get to have this, and the character too, they actually get to go on this journey. And all of writing becomes a piece of cake, right? It becomes something that is so much more intuitive, right? Because this is actually how you naturally process the world,
Yeah.
right? You don't go through the world going like this unless you're a sociopath, right? This is the end that I need to get to, and here's how I'm going to manipulate all the people in my life in order to arrive at that end,
Mm-hmm.
right? That for most writers, that's very foreign, right? But like, holy shit, I just did that?
Mm-hmm.
Why the hell did I do that?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what's wrong with me? Right? Like, or I just did that. Like, I didn't know I had that in me.
Yeah.
Like, how did I find that courage? What does that say about me? Right? That's actually how we're processing
Yeah.
the world all the time. So when you learn to write the way Lavinder's talking about, you're building on your intuition, and however many years old you are, that's how long you've been doing this. So you have just a vastly greater repertoire of experience.
Yeah. Some of the best writing moments I've ever had is where I've written something that I wasn't planning on writing or that
Yes.
wasn't expected. And then I stand up and I'm walking around with my hands. Can I do that? Is that like I'm where
Yeah.
I'm just like so blown away by what
Yes.
happened that I don't think it's something that's gonna work. But then the
Yes.
more you delve into it, you go, that was the purpose of this entire journey for
Yes.
me to get to that moment as a writer.
Yes. And there's a letting go of control,
Mm,
right? That is necessary to achieve that.
mm-hmm.
Um, and one of my students is Mike Gordon from Fish, who's a freaking beautiful writer. And a lot of my students I don't talk about, but Mike talks publicly about us, right? Working together. And he's such a gorgeous writer, but his whole life has been spent, they've never played the same set list twice, right?
Hmm.
His entire life has been spent on stage, right? Literally having a conversation with his closest friends in the world, right? And it's an amazing thing. And he talks about this idea of like a peak experience, right? That when you're up there, and it's not every show, right? But when you're up there, sometimes you have this peak experience where you're transported out of yourself, right?
Mhm.
And you're no longer planning or controlling the music. You're writing it,
Uh-huh. Yeah.
right?
I love that visual. Yeah.
Yes. And I think it's one of the reasons he's been able to make such a really beautiful transition into screenwriting, right? Is because
Yeah.
they're recognizing, yes, his craft is extraordinary, right? He's one of the best bass players in the world, right? But that is actually not the craft that gets you there, right? That it's actually there's a surrender of control,
Mm,
right? That actually allows you to tap in,
yeah.
right? And I was mentioning earlier, I'm fascinated with hypnosis. My mom's a hypnotherapist. I'm actually a certified hypnotherapist, even though I don't practice therapeutically, right? But I'm obsessed with this stuff because it's my belief that both writing and viewing a movie happens, or a TV show happens in a state of trance.
Mm, mhm.
Um, and what I mean by that is, if you've ever seen anything, you know that you have cried real tears over things that you know are not happening, right? You have felt your adrenaline pumping during an action scene that you know is not real,
Mhm.
right?
Yep.
And people talk about this idea called suspension of disbelief that suggests like the audience is choosing to suspend their
Mm,
disbelief, but it's actually the opposite,
yeah.
right? What the writer is actually doing is they're hypnotizing the audience.
Mm-hmm.
And the audience does so, like watching A Quiet Place, right? I'm watching the movie and I'm a screenwriting teacher, so I can see the pieces being built and I can see the little holes, right? Where it's like, why didn't they go live under the waterfall, right? I am having these intellectual questions in my mind, but my heart is going ba boom, ba boom, ba boom, ba boom, right? I'm having an involuntary response
Mm,
because despite all these little quibbles that I'm bringing up, the movie is so brilliantly written and so brilliantly executed, right? That I don't actually have a choice whether I suspend. My mind can be telling me one thing,
yeah.
and my brain is going to do something else. My body is going to do something else. Um, but with a lot of so it's easy to get people to recognize that oh, okay, yeah, you're right. I do watch a movie in trance,
Mm-hmm.
right? At least a successful one, right?
Yep.
But it's harder to get people to realize that those movies are also written in a state of trance, right?
Mm-hmm.
That the way that you do that is actually by hypnotizing yourself, right? And that means we have to get past this intellectual censor that's in all of us, right? That's going, no, not that. No, that's wrong. That's not good enough. You're not smart enough. You don't even deserve to do this. What makes you think, right? Like we got to get past all that And we have to learn to actually trust ourselves and like trust like, oh, I saw that, right? And then to notice also like this is hypnosis, right? Are you actually seeing it? Right? So like I see lavender, right? And my first thought is I see a man, right? I see a handsome man, right? Maybe I get even more specific. Oh, he's got a cool salt and pepper beard, right? So maybe I get even a little more specific about him. Um, but the truth is, I'm not actually seeing lavender yet, right? And the way that I know I'm in a hypnotic state where I'm actually seeing him, I'm seeing, you know, our brains are designed to protect us from lions, right? So like, you know, if your brain worked like the way we want it to work as screenwriters, naturally, you would be like, oh, interesting. It seems to be alive, right? Oh, isn't that interesting how the shadow plays on its back, right? Oh, it has a large hairy something around it and seems very muscular. And it does seem to be, oh, look, isn't that cool? The nails retract, right? No, we go, lion, get the hell out of here,
Run.
right? Um, and in screenwriting, what we call that is cliche, right? And in society, what we call that is prejudice, right?
Yeah.
But really, it's just a natural part of our neurobiology, which is like you don't have time to notice all the details of the line. You put it in a compartment and decide how to react to it,
Yeah.
right? And so part of becoming a really beautiful screenwriter is about learning how to get past that survival instinct and go, I'm going to look at lavender until I notice something that I did not expect to notice. So I'm actually noticing the oddest thing, but like I'm noticing the way the light is shining off of your bicep, right? And how there's this one area of your bicep that looks like this yellowish white, right, against your tan skin, right? And I just noticed that. And I'm, oh, okay. That now I'm really seeing him, right? And so this is like a trick that you can use if you're visual. What do I see that I didn't expect to see? If you're auditory, what did I hear that I didn't expect to hear, right? And if you're kinesthetic, what did I feel that I didn't expect to feel, right? I might feel the texture of his shirt, right? Or I might notice that, oh, there's a fly buzzing around and it itches his ear, right? Like, uh, but you're looking for the thing you didn't expect to see, right? And that's putting you into a hypnotic state, right? And then the next piece of it is you actually have to have the trust in yourself to go that was the right thing, right? And I have no idea how I'm going to use the glow of of his bicep, right? I have no idea how I'm going to use that, but I know that that's the right thing, and that if I follow it, it will lead me where I need to go, and eventually it's going to connect to my theme.
Yeah. No, I talk about things like that. I call them golden nuggets.
Yeah,
You're going to write 5 or 10 pages and you're going to get a golden nugget, and then you're going
yeah.
to delete that 5 or 10 pages and use that in your screenplay.
Yeah, yeah, I love that. You know, I use a similar metaphor. We should just make a like a encyclopedia of screenwriting metaphors. But I always think of it like an accordion,
Hmm.
right? So like in early phase, your job is to fill the accordion, right? You're not going like, no, this gets in, this does not. You're going, how much can I expand the accordion, right? And then you want to push one button in your rewrite, right? And in Write Your Screenplay, I teach there are really 13 buttons that we tend to be pushing, right? And all the other thousands of buttons are really just some variation on those 13.
Yeah.
But you want to push one button, right? And that button could be like what you talked about, right? Like, oh, here is this true dropping. Here is this, what did you call it? Gold
Golden
nugget,
nugget. Yeah.
right? Here's this gold nugget. Here's this true dropping, right? And recognizing that sometimes your gold nugget doesn't look like gold yet, right? Because it hasn't had the craft applied to it yet,
Yeah.
right? It's still got some dirt and some coal caked around it, right? But it feels true, or it created an emotional response in me, or it feels specific, or I love it and I don't know why, or I hate it and I don't know why, right? Like it's creating some kind of strong emotional reaction, right? I'm confused by it. Um, I see it so vividly, right? And you go, okay, that's the button. I'm going to push that button. I'm going to squeeze out all the excess air, everything that's not related to that,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
right? And then you can ask yourself, okay, do I need to expand again,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Um, yeah, I really love the way you think about screenwriting,
I
Levin.
love the way you think about it. The accordion thing is perfect because that's such a vivid visual example of you got to do this in order to get this.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And even metaphorically, this is, an Indian greeting.
There we go.
But there's two things that came up while you were thinking that popped into my mind. One
Yeah.
was a lesson I learned in grad school. I was working on a screenplay. It ended up being the first screenplay that I ever wrote that got made. And I was struggling with some stuff. And my teacher was a fantastic screenwriting teacher. I don't think he really teaches a lot of screenwriting. He's a great published author of many books, Pinckney Benedict.
Hmm.
He, because it seems like you want to do one thing, but your characters want to do something else. He goes, why don't you go home and just let them see what they want to do? And I'm like, okay, I'll try that. And, they veered the story off in a direction that was not at all in the outline and in the thought process and in the lanes that I had created to tell this
Yes.
story. And I just wrote this couple of scenes, a few pages, and I was freaked out. I was ready to go to class and get my rear end torn apart. And when it was my turn, he just looked at me and just started clapping, like, and everyone else in the classroom started clapping. And it's crazy. In order to grasp the story, I had to let go of the story.
Yeah.
And it just seems so antithetical,
Yes.
but that's the direct path to where you want to go. It's
Yeah.
like squeezing the egg, you're cracking it. You got to hold it, but loosely, like a
Yes.
38 Special song. Another thing you mentioned was I don't know why this triggered a thought in my mind, but I always liken a screenplay to a human body.
Mm.
Like we all basically have the same structure. So do most screenplays,
Yeah.
yet we're completely unique individuals as a screenplay needs to be,
Yeah.
that catch-22 scenario. But even beyond that, the people that come see your movie are the ones that are enamored with the outside of your screenplay,
Yeah.
with the conceptual idea and the marketing and whatnot. But they're not going to like your movie if they don't fall in love with the inside, which is how we fall in love with people that we meet. We're attracted to
Yes.
the outside, it brings us close. But if that's what you fall in love with, there's no basis for a relationship. You got to
Yes.
fall in love with what's on the inside. And the
Yeah.
same thing has to happen with your screenplay.
Yes. I think that that's absolutely right. And that's true with producers too. I mean, I have interesting experience because I was on both sides, right? I was
Mhm.
started, in the producer realm, right?
Yeah.
At first a small and then a huge studio, right?
Right.
And you know, what I would see would be, the CEO would come in and here are the charts and here are the demographics and here are the right, and then the producer would be like, okay, yeah, we understand the mandate, right? Um, but producers buy the same movie again and again and again,
Mhm.
right? The movies that they actually buy are the ones that are on their theme, right? And yes, they'll find a way to make it fit the demographics that are necessary,
Yeah.
right? So you need the shiny candy that makes them go like, oh, that's worth eating,
Yeah.
right? But you also have to actually deliver nutrition, right? Or they leave unsatisfied.
Hmm.
And so, what I always say is like the producer reads your script because of your hook and they buy your script because of your theme, right?
Beautifully said.
And no producer will ever be able to tell you, or unless you're very lucky and have a brilliant producer, they won't be able to tell you what their theme is.
Hmm.
And they won't be able to tell you why they buy it. And they're going to think they're buying the hook, but
Hmm.
they're buying the theme,
Hmm.
right? They're buying the what it's about, which is a really powerful thing to know because when it comes to selling your script, right? A lot of people are like, I'm going to target people by genre. And you're way better served targeting people by theme, right? And that's not just producers, right? You want to sell a movie to George Clooney, make sure it's about freaking identity,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because almost every movie he's ever done, right, from the Fantastic Mr. Fox to Michael Clayton,
Mm-hmm.
right, is in some way about like who is George Clooney, right? Who am I, right?
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean like, oh, I want George Clooney, I should write a movie about identity, right? Because you can only write well the themes that are in you,
Yeah.
right? But it does mean like, okay, well, what are my themes? And then you can use IMDb Pro and actually search keywords, and you can actually target people based on the themes in their movies,
Yeah. I love it.
right?
I
And
love
you'll
it.
start to realize everyone has patterns there, and that can allow you to to at least find your tribe, right? And it doesn't mean they're going to buy your movie, but it at least means they're going to get your movie.
Let me ask you a question. First of all, I love that. I'm gonna steal that too, just so we're clear.
Excellent. Excellent.
But um, how often do you come across students, especially when you're, your younger novice students, who just completely try to fight off that and no, I don't want to put meaning in my story. I want stuff to blow up, or no, I want to. Do you ever see that happen? Like,
So, um, if you're getting resistance as a teacher, it's almost always your fault, right?
ooh, okay,
That at least that's my belief, right? So when I'm getting resistance from my student, usually that means I'm bringing too much of me and I'm not listening.
that's fantastic advice.
So so if a student came to me and said, "I don't want it to have meaning, I just want shit to blow up."
Hmm.
Right? The ego in me is going to want to go, "Well, you're wrong, kid," right? But the teacher in me is going to get curious, right? And I'm going to go, "Awesome. What's important about that?" Right? And they're going to go, "Well, because I want it to sell."
Hmm.
Right? And you're going to go, "Okay, cool. So you think really only things that blow up sell?" Yes. Okay, cool. Well, now we can have a conversation. I can show them, 200 other movies that have sold recently that don't have anything blowing up,
Hmm.
right? Or we can lean into theme. We can go, okay, cool, right? Is that what your character believes too? Right? What's his version of things blowing up, right? And what would it be like to take a character on that journey? And eventually, their resistance is connected to their theme.
I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. Yeah, I've just and I won't say it's happened recently, but there are times when I'm teaching, and students are like, "You want me to make everything into a drama?"
Yeah,
And I'm like, "No, here's a horror movie with a great theme, and here's
yeah,
a space sci-fi adventure with a great theme, and here's a
yeah.
superhero movie with a great theme." And you can put it in any genre you want to.
Yes.
But if you're just trying to write the genre, you're gonna run out of stuff in 30 minutes because there's nothing else to write.
Yes. And it's also important, like, you know, people come with their own stuff, right? And you as a teacher come with your own stuff,
Yes.
right? And I think this is most important. Most of our listeners probably aren't teachers, but they are screenwriters, right? And that means eventually they're going to be in a notes meeting,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
right? And it's important to understand, like, when you're in a notes meeting, your producer's coming with their own stuff,
Hmm.
and you are coming with your own stuff, right? So because they have resistance, that's not necessarily your fault, right? But if you can't navigate that resistance,
Yeah,
that means that there's a skill that you need that you don't have, right?
absolutely. Absolutely.
Almost like with producers, almost every note can boil down to one of two things, right? I need to pee on this so I know it's mine, or I can't sell this,
Mm.
right? That's almost every note is in one of those two categories. And writers make, including this one early in my career, because, I was a young egotistical kid who had success really early, right? And so, like, uh, someone would need to pee on my script, and I'd be like, "Oh, you're wrong," right? But I learned that, like, that's not effective, right? And actually, I need to pee on it scripts, notes. Those are the easy notes. You go, oh, let me write a very interesting note. And because all they want is validation, you barely have to do it, right? You just have to acknowledge it. And now they feel like and then, give them the low hanging fruit, give them as much low hanging fruit as you can. So they go, yeah, that's my line, right? Like if it's not destroying your script, like, and the more important notes are the I can't sell it notes, right? And sometimes you get angry at those too, right? Because I can't sell it doesn't mean that it can't be sold, right? It means this particular producer cannot sell it. Yeah. And that might be because they're star, it might be because they're financing, it might be because they're boss, it might be because of their own personal belief system. Yeah. But like, you're a partner, right? It's like if you went home to your wife and she was like, hey, this new shade of purple that you've painted the bedroom, like I just can't sleep in this, right? You're not going to be like, well, you're wrong. This shade of purple is perfect. Or if you are, you're not going to be married very long, right? Yeah. If instead you recognize like, okay, the producer and I, we're a team and we both come with shit. And sometimes I'm the egotistical one, and sometimes they are. If they need to pee in it, I'm going to validate, right? If they need
great advice,
if they can't sell it, then I need to figure out how do I help them so that they can sell it, right? But also so I don't lose my theme, right? And the only time you ever fight is over theme, right? That is the only fight worth fighting. You don't fight. My line was better. You don't fight over that. You give them the damn line because that line, their not quite as good line is going to be the thing that allows them to go get you your star. Because they believe in it and they know it's theirs and right? Like, and don't worry, it's going to change in production anyway, right? But the I can't sell it, right? Like that means that you're not actually delivering what your partner needs, right? You got to find a way to do that serves the theme. I think if there was one damaging thing that I could get rid of in this industry, if I could just like wave my magic eye pencil and be like, this one thing is gone, it would be coverage. And it's not coverage. Coverage does a great job of what it's supposed to do, but the idea of coverage as notes does so much damage, right? I've seen so many students destroy perfectly good scripts based on a note of somebody who, if you really look at them, do the math, they're working for less than minimum wage, right? And it's written notes. Like for me to do written notes well, it takes about a week of nonstop work, right? Because you have no feedback from the other person. So you actually have to go through like, why might they have been doing that, right? What might this mean? How does this play out over the next, whereas if you're in a room and you go like, well, what about this? And the writer goes, well, that would mess up this. And you're like, oh yeah, you're right. Right. You just saved yourself. Yeah. So like this idea of like, the development person tells you what to do. That just means you have a bad development person, right? And coverage is always bad, even if it's written by a genius, because it's written and you can't communicate with them about what you actually wanted to accomplish. So like, if you're a development exec, this is how it all connects, right? The development executive usually read your script, right, in like the half hour before they met with you. Right? Because their job is to be on the phone. This is not because they suck. This is because their job is to be on the phone selling your script. And every moment they spend developing it is lost revenue. Right. So they've quickly read it and they've go, ooh, this is a wound. This is broken. I can't sell this. And then they've thought of the very first solution that they could think of, right? And they're going to go do this.
Yep.
And if you do it, they're going to fire you. Because it's not going to work, right? And if you don't do it, they're going to fire you because they're going to feel ignored, right? And so the real skill is going like, okay, great. I've just written um, Mrs. Doubtfire, and you have a violent murder sequence where they cut up the dog, right? This is what you want me to do, and you don't understand it, right? But if you can let go of the anger and go like, you know, that's interesting. What would that do for you?
Yeah.
Right? And they might go, well, I just want it to be exciting. And you're like, oh, you were bored.
Hmm.
Yes. When were you bored? And they'll always say the same thing. I was bored the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
And you go, oh, wow, that's terrible. Yeah, I don't want it to be boring. Okay, but let's actually look at it.
Mm-hmm.
So let's go to page 1. Were you bored here? No, actually. Okay, were you bored here? No, actually. Were you bored here? Oh, well, look, we're on page 50, right? Were you bored here? No. Oh, page 66, that's where you got bored? Yes, right here. Okay, cool. So what we've done is we've taken away from the solution, right? By getting to like, what's the intention underneath the solution?
Mm-hmm.
And then we're pinpointing where the problem is, because just like in relationships, right? You're in a fight with your partner. They don't go like, you did this one thing. They go, you always do this, right? And you do the same, right? This is how we are as human beings, right? That we vastly generalize, right? And we project the worst possible future based on our current moment.
Yeah.
So you need to isolate the actual problem, right? And then you have to get creative and you have to find out like, okay, like I get it. This is boring. Agreed. Okay, cool. You know, does it need to be violent horror? Or could I try to solve it in some other way?
Mm-hmm.
Right? If they go, okay, I need it to be violent horror, you go, oh, so it's not just boring. There's something else. What's really the problem? And so it's all notes need to be in person because it needs to be a process of actually figuring out what the real problem is.
Yeah.
And people never tell you the problem. They only give you the solution.
I agree. Yeah. I always call it the note behind the note.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
What's the real source there that what they're trying to do, but you did a much better job of explaining it than I ever would. So no, I appreciate that.
You know, and like just to add to that, this is the same thing writers do to themselves, right? The actual worst notes you get are from you,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like, and this I see so many writers make this mistake, right? Of they read their scene and they go, oh, it's awful. Oh my God. Right. And then they go, oh my God, I'm in pain. Right. I'm in pain. I feel shame. Right. I feel not good enough. I feel like I don't even deserve to be a writer. Right. All these feelings come up. Right. All these thoughts about the future. Right. And then they go like, I need to end the pain. Right. What's the fastest way to end the pain? I'll just do this. Right. And they end up doing a rewrite that makes the script worse, right? Because the job of a rewrite is not to stem the pain, right? The job of a rewrite is to amplify what's beautiful.
Yeah, all the good stuff is in the pain.
Yes. And so like, yeah, it's going to hurt, right? Like if you want to confront whatever your biggest fears are and your biggest failings are and the places you need to grow as a person, become a writer, right? Because it's going to force you to do that, right? If you do it for real, right? If you're not just puppeting characters, your character's demons, they're your demons, right? And the beauty of being a screenwriter is it forces you to really look at that, right? And to make sense of it and to heal it. And so, yeah, like the pain's okay. The self-doubt is okay. Hey, we all go through that. I've been doing this literally my whole adult life. And I still go through it, right? But recognizing that your job is not to stop the pain. Your job is actually to, okay, I'm in pain, let's refocus. You know, what's the gold nugget? What's beautiful? What are the build true droppings here?
Yeah.
Right? What actually matters? Okay. Then forget about all the things causing me pain. My job is to figure out how to do more of that, how to make that work stronger.
I'm going to sign up for your class now. I need to learn from you.
Thanks, man. You're welcome. You're welcome there. I would love to have you there.
I could talk to you nonstop. And we will do that at one of these conferences. We're going to go out and we're going to have dinner and we're going to
Yeah.
drink and we're going to talk about all this kind of
And
stuff.
we're gonna bring Bill True,
We are going to
and
bring
we're gonna make him drop whatever droppings he's got.
drop some knowledge, Bill True. But yeah, I like to keep these podcasts about an hour. I think we're a little over an hour, but the information is fantastic. We got to do this again because
Let's
I
do
haven't
it.
even gotten through. I think we left you off at 24 or 26 years old.
Yeah, you
There's
don't
a,
even know how I became a teacher.
yeah, there's a few more decades that we got to get into.
Yeah.
So part two, by pure coincidence, Bill True has a two-parter as well.
All
But
right.
that's mostly because he just won't stop talking. So it
Yeah.
just goes on and on. No, I'm just kidding,
Yeah,
Bill.
it's not Bill True droppings. It's more like a pile.
No, Bill's the best, and we love him.
We
And
do.
I know he'll appreciate this podcast as much as we do. But thank you so much for taking the time. I truly appreciate it, and I do appreciate all the knowledge you dropped.
Thank you so much. Is it okay if I give a link for people who want to check me out?
Absolutely. I will do that for you. It is writeyourscreenplay.com. Is that correct?
That is absolutely right. And if you want to check us out, we do a free class every Thursday night from 7 to 8 p.m. Eastern, 4 to 5 Pacific. So come join us.
If I'm free on Thursday, you might see me in there. All right.
Yeah.
Jacob Krueger, the Jacob Krueger Studio, writeyourscreenplay.com. A free class, like you can't beat that.
You literally cannot be. And it's such an amazing, we have hundreds of writers come every week from literally all over the world. It's really an incredible community.
That is fantastic. And you might see me there. All right.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot, Jake.
All right. Thanks, Lavinder.
Until next time.